The broadcast is live. Welcome back to PlaymakerTV episode 16. This time we are gonna dive back deep into our own league here in Sweden, Damallsvenskan. 7 rounds in. Jesper, I don't know about you, but I've been really looking forward to this one.
Yeah, me too. I've been missing Playmaker TV and also just summarizing the numbers since 7 games is 7 games. It's what is it, about a little bit more than a quarter of the season. So it's an amount that we can look into use and like almost halfway to half the season. So yeah, it's gonna be nice, and I think you're gonna enjoy what we have to show.
Yeah, and we already been having some really high quality games during these first 7 rounds. And this weekend, we have to mention this one. Not just because I live in Linköping, but also because this is a quite historic moment for the Damallsvenskan to have a derby in the region of Östergötland, where Linköping and IFK Norrköping exists, and as two big clubs in two different ways, I would say, because Linköping is just but a women's football club, and IFK Norrköping has been playing in Allsvenskan, the men's league, for many years. And now they have a women's team in the highest division. So now it's finally derby time in Östergötland. I know for a fact that this game will be sold out, around 7,000 people at the stadium this upcoming Sunday. Kickoff 3:00. Really looking forward to it.
Perfect time as well. Not a Monday night or Wednesday night. It's like it's a weekend. Good for travel, I would say, but now it's a close away game since it's a derby.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I wish I could be there to watch it. And when you mentioned the game, I thought you were gonna mention the series final. You could say this Monday that I was watching between Häcken and Hammarby as well, like talking about good games. So like one recent good game and one to look forward to for the weekend.
Yes, and with that being said, this is also because at the beginning of the season we usually talk about what players are gonna be the players to like lead their teams to success. And now I think we can start to see some signs of what we believed was gonna happen, and some surprises maybe.
And that would be interesting to have in your mind when we watch this number. Of course, maybe how the games has been and so on from watching, but just like, did we expect to have these players in the top list or in the 11 in January or in March? And which didn't we expect to be there?
Exactly. So we're gonna start with data. And what are we going to call it? Prediction or?
Yeah, we're going to start looking at more team numbers. And then we're going to dig into to players. So yes, episode 16, as we said, our avatars here looks great, don't they? And so here, the expected points table, and I think we've been talking about expected points previously, I'm pretty sure, but for those of you new to the show or just need to fresh up your mind, expected points is a measure that takes the chances in consideration that has happened for a game, and it takes those expected goals values and simulates the games from, like, if the game would have been played 100, 1,000, 10,000 times, how likely would it have been that the different teams would have won the game if the same chances would have occurred in all games? And then you get a point value between 0 and 3, where if you had a very high expected goals difference, you would get something close to 3 for the game. And if you were down in chances, you would get something close to 0. And from that, you can get a table for the starting games where you have the column for expected points, the third column, where you can see that Häcken, considering expected points, are the leaders. And they both have 18 points with Hammarby. But if you compare Hammarby and Häcken's expected points, you can see that Häcken, they almost have 18 in expected points, which is it's extreme. They have close to 3 in every game in expected points. And I know for a fact the game they lost against Djurgården, they had almost 3 in expected goals, and Djurgården had 0.3. Hedvig Lindahl did a fantastic game, and Djurgården won. But if you would have simulated, Djurgården shouldn't have won that game if it wasn't for Hedvig Lindahl, really. So that was like an unlikely outcome.
That means it might be a team sport, but individual players can make a difference.
Yeah, and if you're over or underperforming expected points, that could mean, for example, good teams that are in the top, like Häcken or Rosengård, Linköping last year, they are more. There's a higher chance that they overperform expected points because they have good finishers, they have good goalkeepers, and so on. So they have. They are more likely to overperform the model. As for teams that are being relegated, they usually miss the chances they need to put in the goal, or they maybe not have the best goalkeepers that don't save that chance that they should save. So the model works well, but that's something to know about. That if a good team is overperforming expected points, it could be just because they have that extra quality, so they can be statistically better than the model.
So let me ask you one question now then.
Yeah.
Based on what we have seen so far, 7 games.
Yeah.
Do you feel confident to say that this is your prediction of the Damallsvenskan's outcome in 2023?
I don't think I said it in the show, but I said to you that I thought Häcken was going to win. And
I just thought you said that because you live in Gothenburg, but
and we work with Häcken now.
Yeah.
No, but I think they have a good team, great coach, and so much talent. But what is hard with Damallsvenskan is that you have the window in between, and that affects a lot. And I mean, that's not only Häcken, but a lot of the teams are stacked with talent, and Damallsvenskan is a great league, but there are a few above with more money. So, and that can change the entire picture. Also, considering what players that could join Damallsvenskan in the summer. And so I think that's why it's hard to use the point like thing, because we're no like on average more changes during half the season in Damallsvenskan than it does in the Women's Super League or in Frauen Bundesliga. From my point of view, like the window affects more. But in the bottom of the table, if we look here, we can see that Uppsala has Uppsala and Kalmar. They are in the bottom. They have 3 and 1 point so far. They should have taken around 3 and 4, both of them. But we can expect that the teams that are there for the moment, Växjö, Brommapojkarna, Uppsala, Kalmar, maybe Kiev Örebro, that they will be down there. I think one surprise to me was that, and that's both considering expected points and points, but I maybe thought that Djurgården would be a bit higher up, maybe. I don't know what you thought, Mia, but...
Yeah, I'm a bit worried about Djurgården again, I would say.
Yeah.
They usually talk a lot about that ahead of the seasons before they start, that they are going to be up there to compete with the top teams. And then I watched them play Piteå the other day at home in Stockholm, and they barely created any chances to score. And they lost that game 2-0. With that being said, I think that Piteå have been looking really well these first rounds. So it's not about that, but I feel that this table that we are looking at right now is quite realistic for Djurgården, I'm afraid. But let's see what happens.
And you could say it depends on, because Rosengård's expected points form has been better. Like the first game, they didn't play well considering expected points. They didn't get the points, but it's like now they started to play better, and their forms considering expected points has also been better. So they might join, but otherwise you could say that there's like a top 4 without Rosengård that is like in the top, and I'm not sure if I don't expect PT and Norrköping to join that, but it could be a top 5. And then also now Häcken and Hammarby are in the top, but Kristianstad is playing better than they have in points right now. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I do think we have to mention Rosengård as well here, because you have them like to be predicted at 5th place. That's not common things that we are used to seeing in Sweden when it comes to the women's game.
No.
I do feel that Rosengård probably right now is one of the teams that it could go either way. For me, it could go either way. They could, I mean, obviously they are a great team with great players and all that, but from what we have seen, they are going to play Häcken the next round. So I think that will be like a question that needs to be answered, and that whole game is a question mark.
And I agree. And considering the derby that we talked about with Norrköping and Linköping in Östergötland, I think I'm impressed of Norrköping. They're newcomers, and considering like last year how hard teams that went up from Elitettan had to adapt, Norrköping has deserved their 10 points, and they seem to be like far too good to be relegated. But the season is long, but I think they're doing a great job, and it looks like they're in Damallsvenskan to stay. Växjö and Uppsala will have to wait and see.
And with that being, like, we started off with this, then let's jump into one of the things that fans usually engage with and have opinions about. But because this is we are going to present the best XI just based on playmaker data in every position. We have to add that. So this is just the numbers that we use when we present this. So let's take a look at it.
Exactly. So as Mia said, this 11 is selected by the Playmaker AI rating that we use, and that's based on an algorithm that looks at the player's action with the help of the event data and tracking that we collect, and it looks at how is the player increasing the odds of her team scoring with her actions, and decreasing the odds of her team conceding a goal. And with that being said, we get a really good grade, and I'm really confident in it. And then one thing to be mentioned is that technically there is players that has a really good grade, but didn't make the 11 due to the fact that it selects the best possible formation out of the position. So it can only select one right fullback. It doesn't matter which formation it chooses. It could choose 3 or 2 central midfielders and 1 or 2 central forwards, but it finds the best possible formation. So this is not necessarily the 11 best players, but it's the best possible formation, if that makes sense. The best
it makes very much sense, I think. And I do think that if people have been watching the Damallsvenskan and if not all games, then at least the majority of them, I do think that there's no surprises here. You think that? You've also been...
Yeah, I think no, I don't really think that there's any like big surprise. I think there could be players in the 11 that could have deserved to be here. I really enjoy Fanny Andersson in PTO, but then I have to remove Kuni Kroos or Rubensson, so I don't think I would do that. But like that, so there are some good players that are outside the 11. But I think that, I mean, For Hammarby and Häcken, there are so many players with good ratings, and both the center backs in the teams were like top 5. I think there was Petrovic in Kristianstad, who had a really good grade, I know for sure. But Rybrink with a star above her, that also indicates that she has the best grade of all players so far.
We must add that from a Swedish point of view here, also ahead of the World Cup, it's nice to see Elin Rubensson doing so well, especially in that position that she plays, and she plays as the number 6. And then we have these fullbacks that competes for a spot in the Swedish senior national team, because the 2 fullbacks in here, they are still teenagers, we must add.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and also Olivia Skog, speaking of the Swedish national team, I think she is probably the one that carries Rosengård at the moment. That's also unusual to say, that I do think that if she would get injured or not be able to play in any way, I think that would be a disaster for for Rosengård at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, like, her numbers is great, and I think like since I started working with numbers with women's football when I joined Playmaker, and we it doesn't matter really, like when you look at the numbers, she's always up there. Like her average performance is so incredible.
Yeah, she's very consistent, and I do think that's a very, somehow I feel like when we speak about the Swedish national team and the players there, she might be a bit underrated. And
I also feel like that has to be so nice for Gerhardsson also when he selects the team, like that he knows what he gets from Skog.
So that's a good way to put it.
Perfect player to have in the roster, even though she might not be considered a starter. Like when we watched the Norway game in Gothenburg, and like she came in and she scored a goal, and and then otherwise, as you mentioned, I think it's very, like, from a Swedish perspective, it's like we have 3 Swedish teenagers in the squad with like Sandberg, Wik, and Winberg, right? If I didn't...
No, Winberg is actually 20 years old.
Oh, yeah, she's born in 2003. Okay, almost teenager.
Yeah, almost teenager. But the teenagers are the 2 fullbacks. And Katinka Tandberg from Linköping, who is your... this best 11's number 9 center forward.
Yeah, and
she's 18 years old. This is her first season abroad from Norway, and I can tell you that she is like a monster on the pitch.
Yeah,
like she's. I do think that now this is me being a bit, biased, because I cheer for Linköping, but I see her play every home game here in Linköping. And I can tell you, it was a long time ago that I saw an 18-year-old player in the Damallsvenskan that looks so, like, she's very comfortable with the physicality and everything, because she's very physical herself.
Yeah.
And she's very strong. If one ever wanted to go to Sweden to watch a Damallsvenskan game, that this is the season, I think.
Yeah, that's the season.
Do it. Just come over here and watch the talent.
And I think how you described her, like, keep that in mind when we're going to look at the player profiles. But
this means that what I see will match your numbers now.
Yeah, they will.
This is good. I also must add that the goalkeeper was she was one of my signings of the seasons, actually, when I chose from all players that had been signed to play in the Damallsvenskan.
Yeah.
Samantha Murphy, a great goalkeeper for PTO to have, I can say.
Yeah, her she tops almost all the numbers. Like, her save percentage is high. She also stands for more saves than an average goalkeeper. Which means that, like, if they wouldn't have her and have a good save percentage, PTO wouldn't be in the position they are. And also, like, she's good in the air with claiming the balls and so on.
Oh,
and
yeah.
The thing that she is like below average, but that might also be a tactic, is that she on average kicks the ball very long, and her accuracy on those balls are that puts her pass percentage down. The thing to remember is that they correlate usually very well. So the players when you look at the goalkeeper spider, the goalkeepers with the highest pass percentage, they usually have a very low average game pass, since they mostly just pass it short to the center backs, and there are no pressure on the pass and so on. Big thumbs up to Samantha Leshnak-Murphy, and we'll see if she can make it all the way to the Playmaker 11, or if Melina Luck will come back, or perhaps any other goalkeeper over the season. We'll look now into some player profiles here, and we'll start by looking at the center backs. And what I have here in front is, for Playmaker TV viewers, you might recognize something, but there's also some new things here. So we have the avatars, both of Simone Boye Sørensen and Josefin Rybink is classified as a playing center back. That indicates that in their style of play at their current team, they are very good with the ball, they are progressing the ball, and very good in possession. That doesn't mean that they're bad in the defense, but that's just like what qualifies them, or like categorizes them the most. Then we have the bar spiders that I know for sure that we haven't used in Playmaker TV before, but if you follow Playmaker or me or on Twitter, you might have seen them. But instead of having just the surface, you have bars here that describes in which percentile the player is, used as a spider. It's just that here it's a bar instead of a surface, and you get the number in the plot. So if it is 98, for example, it doesn't mean 98 in pass percentage. It means that Josefin Rybink is in percentile 98 in pass percentage among all players. And if you look at the dark area, the shadow area in the spider, that indicates like the average on the position. So you can see that she's way ahead in all possession-based bars in red. So like in pass percentage, progressive pass distance, and chance creation, which is expected threat, really what value she puts into possession. And if we look at the top qualities, could be something that you as a viewer, what you see when you watch the player. It could be what a scout would note down if they would watch the players in the game. But this is not written by me or any other scout. This is determined by a machine learning program that I wrote. So it looks at the different KPIs and the different statistics that we gather, and then they put the label on those KPIs that the player stands out in the most. So the pass progressor, you can see in the spider that she's in percentile 100 in progressive pass distance. Space switching, you could not see in the spider, but that is that you could kind of see it in the spider, but space switching, what that is that you move the ball, like if you watch the pitch in Y length, like in width, you move the space in Y direction. So if the game is being played on the right side of the pitch, you move it on a good way to the left to release pressure and enabling your teammates to like progress the ball forward in that pass. So it's longer, accurate passes out of pressure that create space for your teammates.
I also think that Josefin Rybink is actually one of the players that also may go under the radar a little bit.
Yeah.
Even here in Sweden, and even though she plays in a top team in Häcken. Because when that game you were talking about, Hammarby, a few days ago, that was actually one of the games, because I actually sat down and watched that game very like, I was in the game. And then I was just thinking to myself that, they have Josefin Rybink, and she is really good, especially in this game. So I wasn't surprised, because I had watched that game when you presented this Best Exile.
Oh, that's nice. And I think these top qualities add a lot of value. Like when we use data to help scouts, when with recruitment, they are very helpful to like kind of have as words next to a spider to like kind of make it more easy to look into the spider, that you can kind of read the same thing as you would see, and as you learn you would see the connection, and it will be easier eventually to read a spider without these top qualities. But also, like if you're using our platform, or if you're like trying to do a good search, you could also use these labels to, instead of like searching for progressive pass distance or gain or something, you could just put in this label and like sort on the best players in Damallsvenskan that has the pass progressor label, for example, that plays a center back. So it's kind of like making data more understandable and useful, and or that's at least what I hope, and I'm really happy with it. So yeah, and if you think any name is weird or something, yeah, just reach out and say like what means long balls, or this is bad English, or whatever.
And this is bad English.
I don't know,
We're
but like
people, we don't.
yeah, but it's like I'm all in for improvements. But if we look at Simone Boye Sørensen, you can see that she also has the pass progressor. Then she has the safe passer, and safe passer doesn't mean that you play safe, but it means that you are like safe in the consideration that your pass percentage is like really high, and that like when you pass you make it. And even though if you maybe like for both of these players, it's quite rare that a player that is playing so much forward also has such a high pass percentage. And like that is Simone Boye Sørensen, that even though she tried to break line and plays a lot forward, her pass percentage is top. So she's a very safe deliverer and a safe passer. Like you can trust her. And chance stopper that she has, that means that you are very good in like stopping chances in very crucial situations. So like if there's a attempt to carry the ball into the box or pass the ball into the box to a teammate, she's there in the last second and stops the attack. Like no one conquers the penalty area when she's there, kind of, you know. So that's
yeah, and this is actually one of the things that separates these two center backs, because they are quite similar in the possession stats. But then you can see the difference here in defensive stats.
Yeah, I would say that exactly, that she has a role that, or her qualities, that she dominates more defensively and like really puts Hammarby in a good position. Like she played a really good game against Häcken this Monday, I think, like when even though Häcken won. But what Rybring has that she maybe doesn't have is that it's actually kind of rare that a center back is in 98th percentile among all players in putting value into possession. Usually that's like attacking midfielders and wingers that have those numbers. So but we will see that when we look into some bar stats later, that she has tremendous numbers from being a center back. If we look at fullbacks, they happen to be the same avatar as well here, but they are both the progressor. And the progressor is kind of a wide playmaker, or like an offensive fullback that is being able to carry or pass the ball forward and put them into more lucrative positions, and like adding a lot of value to possession. And they are characterized by what the actions they make in possession rather than outside possession. And I think their spiders have similarities here as well. I think that Anna Sandberg has, like, her offensive stats is also insane, really. And like she's, I think that I wrote to you, I texted to you, Mia, like when I watched the game, like Anna Sandberg is fast.
And it's like
I know she is, but like when you watch the game in person, you're like,
and then
wow.
You know what is also very, very interesting is that Josefin Rybring is a center back in Häcken, and these two players play in Häcken as well. And then you look at the offensive stats, you can see that this is a team that is on their front foot, I would say. They want to play aggressive offensive football.
Exactly.
And it's like you said, that they have two fullbacks with the same kind of profile, but they have different abilities and qualities in their offensive play as well. And I do think that this is one of the reasons that Häcken actually, I mean, it's one of the reasons that Häcken can play the way they do, And it's also very obvious that, because I know that when they signed Anna Sandberg from Kieferbro, that they really had scouted her like very carefully, and you can really look when you see them play now that this is the result of good scouting.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, very good scouting. I agree. Like we had the episode when, if you haven't watched that, when we took down what Häcken saw in, or probably saw in Anna Sandberg at Kieferbro, and how they like her qualities, how well they transferred from Kieferbro to Häcken, like immediately. Watching her stats. So if you haven't watched that, I recommend you watching it. If we look at the top qualities, I said that the progressor is kind of the wide playmaker at fullback, and you can see that both of them have the tag playmaking passer. And the reason that we have playmaking passer there is, and also like carrying progressor that Anna Sandberg has, that is because like if you have the avatar progressor and you're looking for a fullback in recruitment, that you want to be a progressor, but then one player could be a progressor from carrying the ball, running it forward, and another fullback could have the qualities in passing from like crosses and playing long balls. And that's actually two different kind of players. So like the Avatar 2 level, which is the top qualities, they make you go down deeper and not confuse, because like there could be differences in like how you progress the ball or how you're an anchor, like how you conquer it. And that's what they describe. So and now Anna Sandberg happens to have both qualities, but like still, it's a nice thing. The difference, like these qualities are set to like what is the player in, where is the player best in comparisons to other players, and you always get free labels, and that's because like even if a player is performing not in the top section of the league or whatever, it's meant to like bring up what the players has their top qualities. So like or you can be able to know like what is this player best at, and also a way to like be better being able to recruit and not only look at like tremendous stats, but also being able to like, for example, if you're Häcken, how can you find a player that might not be good enough for the moment in Women's Super League, but she has these qualities, and if she would move down to, let's be fair, a level to Damallsvenskan, she might be great. So like that's what it's meant to do. If we go back to them, I think that one thing we can add, like with pass breaker here, for example, with Hanna Wik, that she's very good in interceptions. She's very good in stealing passes, and that's why she gets the pass breaker. And the pass leader, that means that she's one in the team that has the most passes. So she's like, it doesn't necessarily mean if you're a pass leader that you are the one adding the most value, but you're kind of the motor or the spider in the web, if that makes sense. Like there's a lot of connections around you. So that's like the biggest thing.
Obviously, these two are going to be very interesting to follow.
Like
during the season.
Where will they end up? Like, or how long will it be in Häcken? How many?
Hanna Wik extended her contract with Häcken.
Oh yeah, right.
It was announced today until 2025. Something tells me that she won't stay in Häcken till 2025, but
I wouldn't be surprised. I have no idea, but I wouldn't be surprised if there would be like, now there's a really nice number for Häcken, so, and they know someone will pay it. So like this is a way of like making both parts happy. Let's go on to center mids. One of my favorite players this year in Damallsvenskan is Kaira Cooney-Cross.
Not just yours, I think. I think there are many people. I think there are many people out there that what you are about to say, speak about her now, is that many people will agree with you. I think she is also very young, obviously, but she plays so mature.
Yeah, so mature. I mean, like the level of her technical skills, like the way she handles the ball, dribbles, moves it around, and she also has, she has the playmaker label and or playmaker avatar, and it's like easy to understand why if you watch her play. Her style of play is easy to fall in love with, for sure. And you can see that the thing that might come up later in the season, but that that she maybe doesn't have in her spider, that like maybe the top level of playmakers has, that's like the goal contribution. But I mean, it's easy early in the season. It might come very soon.
Yeah, no, and also the fact is that I actually must say that I do like a number 6 or just a center mid that can dribble.
Yeah,
it's very refreshing. It's very refreshing, I must say.
Me too.
Like most of the center mids, they are good at holding the ball up, or slow the play down if needed, or even speed it up if needed also. But it's not common to see a center mid that feels like, yeah, this player can dribble the ball very well.
Exactly. And yeah, Elin Rubensson, I think it's tremendous. Like she has the regista, but she's a bit of a hybrid anchor. You can see that like she has her defensive stats is like way above average. Her possession stats is as well. She's generating a lot of expected goals. She will probably score a goal or two soon, and yeah, she's above average in almost everything. And when you look at the top qualities, I don't know, Mia, you might know for sure, but I think she's like just adding qualities. Like when I saw that she has like air duels as a top quality now, that's not what I think about when I think about Rubensson, but like she has added that as well this season.
And I think I do think that she is one of Sweden's probably best players if we're looking at the national team now, because what I get struck by is the fact that she played as a fullback, like I do think at the beginning of last season.
Yeah.
And then she has been more offensive in her play. Obviously, she plays in a very offensive team, so it's nothing like that. But right now, the big topic in Sweden is she the one that will be? I'm not going to say take Caroline Seger's role in the Swedish national team, because this is not what I see Elin Rubensson as, because to just take her and her abilities into to say that, okay, you are going to do what Caroline Seger does now, because Elin Rubensson is a different kind of player, I think, that can add something more to Sweden's playing style and tactics.
Yeah, definitely. And I get excited for the World Cup as a Swede when I watch this now first.
Yeah, exactly. When you watch Elin Rubensson, now we want the World Cup to come.
Yeah. And if we move on to the offensive wingers, or like if we move up a step on the pitch, we have Olivia Skog that we already has talked about a lot, but like she gets the classical winger avatar. She could have received the attacking star as well. She matches very close to it, but the reason for like that she matches the classic winger this season is because like she wins the ball up high, but she's also like super successful in the crosses. I don't have the crosses in the spider here, and like she keeps with and just does a lot for her team all over, except from just the goal contribution. And you can see the tag there that she has key player playmaking. And what key player playmaking means, that it means that except from being a playmaker in general, or like having the playmaker passer, she's like one of the players in Damallsvenskan that has that is most important for their team when it comes to like being a playmaker, generating value in possession. And that's exactly what you said, Mia, when you just looked at the 11, and she gets that tag. So that's kind of cool, right?
That's very cool.
And if we move on to Matilda Winberg, like another rising Swedish star, I think she was really good against. Like she played really well against Häcken, although they didn't win, or they didn't score any goals. But like Häcken had to work to slow down the attack when when she came. And yeah, she has the finishing parameter. Like, she's a great finisher, scoring, converting expected goals very well. She has the playmaking ball carrier that comes from like the dribbling and carrying part instead of the passer. And the final pass that indicates like that could be shot assists. That is like having a good quality in like when you're making what should be or expected to be a shot assist or keep as the final pass, like reaching a player in the box that is able to shoot, that like she has a good accuracy of those passes, they reach through, and she puts her teammates in a good opportunity to do so. So the final pass quality is tremendous.
Also one of the players that just recently broke into the Swedish national team as a senior player, though. Will be very interesting to see if she will be one of the players that Peter Gerhardsson will select to go to Australia and New Zealand this summer.
Yeah, I guess they both, like, now they play on not exactly the same position, but I guess like both of these, both of Olivia and Matilda is in the competition, and they probably be, but there's not necessarily like starters, but like, you know, could very well both be in the 11, or like, what do they say? I mean, the squad, the roster for the World Cup. Okay, so now I don't know. I put central attackers here, but Emmy Ahlman is not a central forward. But like, we have the two players in the 11 that played up front centrally, and we have Emmy Ahlman in Kristianstad, the only Kristianstad player in this 11. She also has the finishing, playmaking passer, the final pass, and yeah, just tremendous numbers as well. A great season. Second playmaker in the 11. And then you talked about Katinka so well, and she has the target. And I was like, you're describing a target player, and she has the target. Like the machine learning script, it selects her perfectly as a target, just as you said.
Yeah, and I can say also this, because I know that we spoke a lot of not a lot, but we spoke about this the last season, you and me, Jesper, about when we compared Amalie Vangsgaard to Evelyn Viens. That we spoke about the fact that you could see that Linköping used Amalie then as a proper center forward, just scoring goals from crosses and from getting the ball inside the box. But then we had Evelyn Viens that season that was also a playmaker. Like, she could score, but she could also playmake. And this is what I feel like when I watch Katinka play, that she can do both. And she's very strong also, so when she receives the ball with her back towards the opponent, she could really be like, she can take on the role as, okay, I will keep the ball until my teammates are in position, and then she can assist really well too. So gonna be very exciting.
Yeah, tremendous replacement of Vangsgaard. Good scouting. And I mean, as you said, like, she's very high in the shot assists, like way above a regular central attacker. And you see in the spider you have target, and like what target is it's using expected threat, like expected threat received, that you might have heard about before. But it actually tells you a player that has high expected threat received is a player that is either a good player to find its way in the box, like into good position, like moving very well and getting that extra space ahead of a forward, and like in that order then receiving a lot of threat in the penalty area. But it could also be like a route runner or a deep threat player that is good in like running in behind a defensive line and getting through balls, receiving through balls from players. And it could be both, of course. So
we must also add that Emmy Alanen has been playing in Kristianstad for a couple of seasons, I'm pretty sure of it. And she's always been a very stable player there, I think. So to see her with like looking at her spider here. That's very, I'm very happy for her that she finally gets some attention from her performances, because I do think that she is also a very important player for Kristianstad.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, now we move on to some stats, and we won't look at. Yeah, there will maybe a spider or two, but we will mostly look at some different kind of charts describing the top performing players in different categories. So here we have a tree map. I don't know if I've used a tree map before. I think it's kind of nice. But what a tree map does, it's like that you have one statistic that is correlating with the size, and you have another statistic that is correlating with the color. So like the intense color of very dark red is indicating a high success rate. So we're looking at stats here that you can measure both in amount, but also in success rate. So like Lisa Björk, for example, in the top left corner with the biggest size of her bracket, she has the most successful dribbles per 90 in Damallsvenskan so far. And Matilda Winberg, who is in the bottom right corner with the smallest bracket, she has she's at position 20. So she doesn't have the least amount of all players, but she's at position 20 in the entire league of the players that has played more than 250 minutes, so around 3 full games. And the color then indicates, for example, so you could say that Lisa Björk has a pretty good percentage, like it's fairly high, around a bit above, like around 82%, and she also is very successful. Then you could look at, for example, Tuva Skog, Madeleine Janogy, and Anna Sandberg, that has a little bit smaller amount, but has a percentage that is close to 90%, so like 9 out of 10 times. So like Madeleine Janogy and Tuva Skog, they fail the least time when they attempt. Like, so they're very secure in the dribbles.
Yeah.
And then, like, it doesn't necessarily mean that this is the case. Like, it's only 7 games, but then you could say that Sofia Bredgard and Iris Summers that make the lead, they make the top 20. They try to dribble maybe more than they should, or like they just try to dribble more and they have a lower percentage. So their percentage is down to 60. So they like fail 4 out of 10 times on average so far. So if I analyze a board like this, if you're on the board and then you it's better than just to look at the top number and see your dribbles most. It's nice to like be in a top 20, but also have a very dark color because your success rate is high. That tells you that you're good at it, for sure.
We also must add now, because you mentioned Lisa Björk up there. She's also 18 years old.
Yeah.
And just a couple of seasons back, she played in the division below the Damallsvenskan.
Yeah.
And she played in Umeå.
Yeah.
A very important player for Umeå. Now she plays in Linköping, who is considered as one of the top teams.
Yeah.
And I do know that we have been speaking about the fact that her playing style is very similar to Johanna Rytting Kaneryd, the Chelsea player. And I can tell you that watching Lisa Björk play now, it's her movement and the patterns in her movement. It's very similar to Johanna Rytting Kaneryd, and she likes and she's not afraid to take on a defender 1v1 while carrying the ball, which probably this stat will tell you.
Yeah, and there will be more Lisa Björk, so
I'm not surprised.
More to come. Now we look at crosses. So crosses, we look at this in the exact same way Mia has described before. So like the biggest bracket is the most amount of successful crosses, and the color indicates the success rate. And this map is like a bit different in color because Frida Borriero, she has like 1.6 crosses into the penalty area per game, but she has like a success rate of like, I think she missed, I don't know if she's missed any cross of what we have detected. Like her success rate is so high. That's why the other players look so, I wouldn't say bad, but like their color is so much different. But
I know that she has scored a goal also for Brommapojkarna. I saw that the other day when I did some research.
So, but this is also like, you have to keep in mind it's just 7 games in. So it's also more room to have like a good trend, less linked to.
Will be interesting to look at these numbers when half of the season is played, which I'm sure we are going to do when the league takes a break for the World Cup.
For sure. And I mean, here you have Lisa Björk again. She in successful crosses, you have Olivia Skog. We talked about the classic winger role. We have Heidi Kollanen that always have like good. She had good Damallsvenskan numbers last year as well. Anna Anvegård, that we know is a good player. So there's a lot of interesting names in this list as well, I believe.
For sure.
I know Vilma Wärulf that is in place 20. She had like tremendous pass numbers in Elitettan the year that Brommapojkarna got promoted in 2021. Okay, progressive passes. So this is passes only going forward, not
a surprise to see 3 center backs with the biggest brackets and very dark colors, I must say. But it's even more interesting now when we have watched at least Simone Boye Sørensen and her spider more up close.
Exactly, and like on average, like center backs, they have to play forward almost all the time since they were in the back.
Exactly.
So
or back to the keeper.
But so if you would compare to, like, if you would look at central midfielder, so on, this is still like interesting to have, like, instead of just looking at the pass percentage linked to progressive passes, to actually look at the pass percentage on the passes that are progressive. So like, and here you can see in the same way that like who does it the most and how is it linked to the percentage, like how efficient are they? And we talked about Simone Boye Sørensen and them like good numbers in the spider before, and you see the same thing here really.
And in this, I'm gonna add something here now is that one of the Playmakers players of the year last season was Eva Nyström in Hammarby.
Yeah.
He was the defender of the year, I think, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I talked about Petrovic as well, not being in the 11, but having very interesting numbers. If we move on to challenges, and these challenges are adjusted for possession. We have talked about that before in PlaymakerTV, but like instead of just looking at the amount of challenges collected, that it's very linked to how much you defend, you use possession adjustment as a formula to, like, if I play for a team with 75% of possession and make 3 tackles, and Mia plays for the team with 25% of the possession in the same game, then my tackles will go up from, and we both have 3, my tackles will go up to maybe around 4.5 and Mia's to 1.5 when you compare. Like, we still made 3 tackles each, but in order to like compare in a more fair way, you look at the time when we only had to like do press game or do like focus on challenges to be able to compare.
Do you know what strikes me when looking at this?
No.
Is that every player on here, they play for what we would say are the top teams.
Yeah, and if we wouldn't have adjusted for possession, it would have been the opposite.
Yeah.
But like when you do this, it doesn't mean that players in bad teams necessarily have to go away. In this case, it does, but it doesn't necessarily need to be that the fact. So we don't shake the box and turn it upside down. We put them on an equal level.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, there's some interesting number we talked about in the, I don't know which episode, probably the NWSL, but also about signings with Abdullah, but like Julia Roddar going to Hammarby, and like we talked about her being the anchor and like moving into Hammarby in a good way. And like you can see here, she's on the top of a list like this immediately.
Yeah.
If you look at the challenge percentage rate, we can see Lotta Öqvist in Hammarby and Brildo Basse having, like, when they try to win the ball, they do it with the best frequency so far.
Yeah.
And
I know that you said that Lisa Björk was going to show on many, like, of your pictures in this episode, because I know that what we are going to look at from now on, her name will appear.
Yeah, now it will be exactly. Now it will be more Lisa Björk. So now we will look at expected threat, like only the possession value so far in Damallsvenskan. And who's in the top?
Yeah.
Lisa Björk.
And many of the players we have been watching so far on your pictures. Apart from this, is also interesting because what I do think is very interesting when you look at charts like this is that, let's take Ellen Toivio here, for example. She plays in Brommapojkarna, that is a bottom table team.
Yeah. And I mean, like, Lisa Björk, the fantastic thing here is, like, Lisa Björk, she had good numbers last year as well. She was not in top, but she was more like in an Ellen Toivio position or even further down. But now when she comes into an even better team and she's being able to develop in practice, training with better players, and also playing in a better team, her numbers is even more enhanced, and, like, she can develop even further. So, like, this is great scouting from Nyköping, like finding that and putting her into the team, giving her the chance, and, like, she started in such a good way, for sure. And I thought we would break down these numbers. So this is, like, we've done this before in previous episode, but, like, now it's just expected threat linked to all possession actions. If we go to next slide, we have only passes. We can see Lisa Björk bounce down to second, Anna Amvegård to first. But you can see that, now I don't remember, but, like, some other players jump into the list and some go down. And this is, like, considering only the pass actions. So, like, from passes and crosses and so on, what expected threat do you generate? If we move to next slide, we will look at carries and dribbles instead. And then we have Evelyn Vians in a tremendous lead. She was, I don't remember exact position, but she was at the very top last year as well. JRK, Ritin Connery, she was number one. She played half the season, but she has had the way highest average. But, like, Evelyn Vians was a top performer, and she continues in the same way.
This is also very interesting to see that Tabby Tyndall and Evelyn Vians, who plays as a striking partnership, I would say, in Kristianstad, that they are very high on this list.
Yeah, and here we have, like, Matilda Winberg as well. We have Lisa Björk is on both lists.
Also, this is interesting because Alice Bergström, who is a Djurgården player, they had, like, Ebba Hed was in the pictures before now with the passes and XT in general, but here we have another Djurgården player and Stina-Lisa Johansson as well. So exactly.
So interesting to follow up this list as well. And we can see that Evelyn Vians, she was not in the 11, but she's still performing.
She's still a good player.
Well. Yeah, she could have been. She could have been.
Yeah,
the competition is hard, and
she could be also in the future. We don't know.
Exactly, we don't know.
No.
Then we look at expected assist. I usually like expected threat is a better number because expected assist, in my opinion, because expected assist only looks at the final pass. It only looks at the key passes and the assist, and then you mirror the expected goal value to kind of see, like, which players is it that enables the shot to be taken there, like who creates the shooting opportunity with the last pass. And so if you have a high number here per 90, you do either a lot of shot assists or you do less, but you put the player, like, in a shooting opportunity in the goal area or the golden zone or something like that. And Lisa Björk is number one here as well. Like she has, she's like expected to do a pass to a goal like once every twice a game. So like she's expected to do 13 assists the entire season. That would be an enormous number. I don't know
that
if
would
you
be
know how many assists she's done so far, but that's an enormous number. The only thing that with expected assist is that if she does that many assists, that's depending on her teammates. So but
they're gonna have to do their job as well. But this is also interesting because you spoke about Uppsala when you showed the expected chart, like where they are gonna end up, because Elin Rombing is playing in IK Uppsala.
Oh yeah, and she's doing very well there. We haven't talked about Rosa Kafaji as well, that I thought was she has been good, and she had a super game against Hammarby this Monday. She's doing well here. Line Eriksdottir, that I think we talked about when we talked about the first round of Damallsvenskan. She's also here, also doing a really good job in her debut season in Kristianstad. So Evelyn Viens, there are a lot of good players. Okay, last but not least, I was going to say, but not really last, but we're going to move on. We talked about chains last episode, so I thought I would put it in here as well. And when we're talking about chains in possession, that means like when a possession sequence starts up by, it could start with a free kick somewhere on the pitch, it could start with a throw in, it could start by that you win the ball with a duel on the pitch, and then you move forward. And then there is then you can sum up or you can describe player statistics by looking at which chains they are involved in. So you could look at what's the average expected threat in the chain that the player is involved in. So you take the sum of the entire expected threat in the chain, and then you do the average for the player. Or you can look at which player starts the most chain by winning the ball from the opponent, or which player is involved in most chains that reach a shot, and so on. And that's what we're gonna do now. So,
can I just say that this is insane, because you can have the next picture, because this is like, okay, this is 10 players, and out of 10 players, 7 of the players play in BK Häcken.
And that's probably from the chain perspective, like that it's not that many games so far, but that these players have been in the same chain a lot of times.
They have
Hannavik, Ambegård, Rybink, like Rybink starts the chain maybe, and then it goes to Sandberg, who connects with Ambegård or something, and then out to Rosa, and it just says that they generate a lot of expected goals, and they're involved in a chain every game that should result in around 1.5 goal, like in between 1 and 2 goals. And they've been so successful, and they have the expected points that is almost the same as their points, like with 18. So
they should score a lot of goals down in Gothenburg this season. But also, you said it yourself, it's 7 games in, but this will only make it more interesting when we sum up the season later on, because I'm going to remember this now, that the XD chain per 90, so far 7 players from BK Häcken.
If we look at XT per chain, so that's actually like what's the average expected threat of the chain that the players are involved in, not the sum, but instead the average. And then usually it's better to compare in between positions, because usually like offensive player has an average chain because they're maybe involved in short chains that starts high up in the pitch and so on, and then a pass is worth a higher expected threat and so on. But it still tells you something about which players that you see that Evelyn Viens and Katinka Tamberg, for example, they're involved in chains that are very high valued, and that usually maybe ends up in a goal, and so to say. And the further down the pitch the player plays, the more maybe impressive it is.
I must say that out of all these pictures now, not
Yeah.
just the chain, about the XT in passes and carries and so on. We have seen a lot of Djurgården players.
Yeah.
So this is like, it's very interesting because, like I said, in the game against Piteå, they didn't create much. I'm pretty sure that if we were gonna go back to look at shots on target and off target, weren't many shots at all from Djurgården that game.
No. Oh, exactly. And yeah, they mean somehow they generate threat, but they don't convert it to shots. Then, and like that's.
Yeah, probably something like that.
And that's usually a normal issue that you that's the case. And yeah, a way of using expected threat per chain is also that there's no, like, you get rid of the amount of chains the player is involved in, or like possession. It just tells you an average, so you can see that some players in a team that plays with a lower percentage and more on counterattacks and so on, that when they get the ball, they generate like value, or they generate good chains. Because when you look at expected threat chain per 90 or expected threat per chain, you're not looking at only the player's action as you do with expected threat. And we know that Evelyn Vians, she generates a lot of expected threat herself. But the thing is that some player, like the anchor role, for example, they are very good in winning the ball and doing the short pass to a player in free space that is then enabled to like do the pass that generates the threat or move the ball forward and so on. And those players can be detected here, that even though that they do not necessarily generate all the threat themselves, they enable their teammates to do so. And
Exactly.
that's like the description of, like, this measurement is really the description of Caroline Seger sometimes in like Swedish national team, that she enables Filippa Angeldal or whoever to generate threat for Sweden.
Yeah. And I must say, I'm going to say it now because I went into Y-Scout to just look at the stats for the game. Sorry,
Yeah.
Jesper.
No.
That was my web. But
we should have this automatic, like,
yeah.
when you mention Y-Scout.
Djurgården, they had 6 shots, 4 on target against Piteå. So not that many. And since they didn't score, it was, I think, it's even more telling for that. But it's interesting to see that they obviously have a lot of players that could create the goal scoring chances by looking at the data here. But it's going to be interesting to see where they end up.
Yeah, for sure. Shot percentage. So shot percentage here should have maybe, like, if it would have been in another case, we're not talking about Shane, it should have had another number, because this could be confused with something else. But shot percentage here, it says that or here it's not percentage, it's actually part. But so like 0.25 is 25%. And that is a mistake for me in the graph. But like how big part of the number of chains that you're involved in and ups in a shot. So like when Evelyn Vians gets the ball in possession, if you watch a Kristianstad game, it's 1 out of 4 that it will end up in a shot later in the possession chain. And that's like a very high number. Lisa Björk here, 0.19. So like when you watch Linköping game, Mia, on Sunday, you can think like you can count and you can be like 1, 2, and when you reach 5, if it hasn't been a shot in the possession chain later already, it should occur on the 5th time on average. And yeah, you know that it might get dangerous. And
yeah, I'm gonna count in my head while I photograph that game.
And expected threat is maybe a better way of evaluating how like what's the average value of the chain the player is involved in, but this is more of a descriptive way of like understanding that, like, how likely is it that it will end up in a shot if a player has the ball. And then you can see that if you look at only centimeters, for example, like these players are very good in like being part of chains that later, talking about Carolina Seger, that later will end up in a shot. The last one on the chains here is something that I call dual chain starts per 90, and it's adjusted for possession. And dual chain start, it's that this is like when you recover the ball in play with a duel, like a tackle or challenge in any way, that enables the team to start a successful chain after. So not only recovering the ball, but then losing it quickly, but that the chain actually like reaches 3 or more passes and then ends up in some kind of value, like you recover.
It's very interesting that we have a goalkeeper on this list, I think.
Yeah, that's actually true. I didn't,
Yeah.
but that has to be from like claiming the ball in the penalty area. I haven't looked closer to it, but like, and I didn't filter out goalkeepers as well. But it's definitely, or probably from the interceptions or claims the goalkeeper does when the crosses go into the box, and she has to jump up and claim it, competing with attackers and so on.
Yeah, because on this list we have 4 players from Linköping.
Yeah.
1 from Hammarby, 1 from Kristianstad. I mean, it's very like mixed between the other players, but yeah.
And now Olga Atinen, that was the like playmaker or the best player from last year. She's not played enough to be in any of these lists that I showed today, but like she's the player that was very high up last season. Like this is one of her measurements.
Yeah, we want her back. I can tell you that.
Yeah, but I think it's very nice. And when we looked at the challenges per 90 adjusted for possession in the 3 map, we saw players like Holly Wickenheiser and Saudi Takarada performing well in that measurement as well. So we know that, like, at looking at both stats, they're like successful in recovering the ball and generating possession control for the teams. Now we move on to the first and only scatter in this plot, and it's just because I like this visualization in some way. I've used it before on Twitter, probably in PlaymakerTV, but you have the x-axis, you have the expected threat per 90, and then you have the shot value per 90, and the shot value per 90, it's really like, if you have a chance of 0.2 in expected goals and you score, you receive a value of 1 minus the xg, so like it's how you convert. That's not exactly how the model works, but it's like a good description of it. It's like that you add the value that you that is like you add your expected goals if you score the goal, really. And so the players that has below 0 here, they have attempted some shots or many shots, but they convert badly. It could be that the player has shot once and missed that shot and not converted to a goal, or it could be a player that has a lot of shots, but on average misses more than they score. And so here you can like generate these like 3 different areas that you down to the right, you have players that are a creative threat in like generating value in possession, putting teammates into chances, but not maybe doing the finishes themselves, or like scoring the goals. And there you have Lisa Björk, Anna Sandberg, Andegård in that creative threat zone. And then you have the shooting threat that is up to the left in Y direction, and that's more like of a central forward zone, usually like where you have Tandberg, Hamano, and Imo, where like you could have like shot assists and so on, but you are not the player like generating the value in possession and doing the difference in the build-up. You're more focused on, or you're more the threat when it comes to ending the possession chains and actually converting it into goals. And then in like the upper right corner, the more you go into the upper right corner towards the dual threat label, you have the players that can do both. And there you have Tuva Skog, Winberg, Evelyn Viens, Kollanen, Fiona Brown, that we haven't talked about in Rosengård. They are like Olivia Skog, in some extent, like they are moving towards that corner. Any surprises here? What do you think?
No, not any surprises. Actually, I do think that if you follow the Swedish league, you might by now like get the feeling from the teams how they want to play. Like you have a plan before the season starts, and then you try it out to see, okay, can we win games playing like this? And now, I mean, 7 games in, obviously, we can see that teams in the top of the table, that they actually perform how they want, if you know what I mean. Not just by winning games, but also the football they want to play. I do think that we haven't seen the best from Rosengård yet. I think we have seen one of the best performances from Linköping ever when they played Rosengård. But still, there's so much more to come, and it's going to be interesting to follow up these numbers.
Yeah, definitely.
Both when half of the season is played, and then I'm pretty sure that we're going to be able to talk about this a couple of times more before the season is over.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, it's been super nice.
You have one more.
I have one more slide.
You have one more, because I will never. I don't forget that one.
No, and we've already talked about it, so I think we can like just watch it a
just
bit.
show it, because it's beautiful to watch.
Yeah, and it's just like it's the development of Lisa Björk, truly, like that she has. And also, like when you adjust defensive values per 90, I think it is so interesting to see like that she played in a team that had to defend more than Linköping does. Like they were in the bottom table, they were relegated, but the quality of her defending has, and especially in the high pressure or in the offensive part of the pitch, has been like a tremendous development. And also in the quality in the offensive game has also increased. And I'm sure that you will enjoy. Yeah, you will get to enjoy in Linköping for a while, but like she will play in the Champions League, or like she will be playing in the very top in the future.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
But with that being said, Jesper, then we could look back at this episode and finish it off with by telling that we have plans for upcoming episodes. One plan is to speak about players that will for sure change clubs. Maybe we'll speak about players that will leave for free, just because it's very interesting to see how high quality players move around in the market at the moment, and what clubs they choose. And I know that you have been showing teams playing styles with data. So I think that's probably one thing we're going to dive deep into pretty soon. But also, it's not long before the season is over in many leagues in Europe, and then we are for sure gonna show you the best exercise from the top 5 leagues in Europe when the seasons are finished. And then we have a World Cup to look forward to, but not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. One step at a time, one game at a time, as you might say. But thank you, Jesper. This has been a pleasure as usual.
Thank you. The same to you. And thank you for everyone watching. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you have any comments, reach out, and have a good day. Good rest of the weekend. Bye-bye.